DeAndre Hopkins, the superstar wide receiver, is now a free agent. He can sign wherever he pleases. So in this live stream, yes, I am live to take your questions, your comments. We're going to have an open, free discussion. So if you have any questions at all about DeAndre Hopkins, what type of player he is at this point, where will he land, his preferred destinations, I'm prepared to answer all those questions, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the teams that I believe are most likely to land DeAndre Hopkins, which situations make the most sense, which teams should be on DeAndre Hopkins, should be trying to sign him, but maybe they won't. All that and more in this live stream. Make sure to Gronk spike the like button. Get in that comment section. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling. And let me know if you want your favorite team to sign DeAndre Hopkins. Let's go. Let's say hello to the people first. We got Devin Roblox in the chat. What's going on, Mr. Devin? We've got Alex in the chat. He says, I'm a Patriots fan, but my money is sadly on the Bills because they're the only team that really needs him and has all of the qualifications he wants. So, what did DeAndre Hopkins say that he wanted? Alex, what did he say? He said he wanted a quarterback. He did not say a Pro Bowler. He did not say a Hall of Famer. He did not say an All-Pro. He said he wants a quarterback that loves football, which, if you take it the way he said it, he was throwing a little shade at Kyler Murray. Let's be fair. Let's be honest. He was throwing him right under the bus. He secondly said that he wanted a stable management, a stable franchise with a stable general manager who knows his worth and respects him. At least that's what was implied in that statement. And then lastly, what he wanted was not another great receiver on the team. No, he wanted a great defense, because he believes that defense wins championships. So if you take all of those three things into account, plus the cap situation of teams, you will be able to figure out the destination for DeAndre Hopkins, or at least the teams that will be perhaps with the opportunity to sign DeAndre Hopkins. Now that he is a free agent, he gets to choose where he goes. Now, how many teams will be interested in him is an entirely different question. Now, should teams be interested in him? Personally, I think yes, especially if you're in the Super Bowl window. If you are the Chiefs, if you are the Bills, if you are one of these teams, why wouldn't you be interested? Now, money may be something. Like if he's going to go out there and ask for big time money, then that might eliminate a team like Kansas City or a team like Buffalo from the discussion. There may be some teams that are maybe not looked at as premier teams, but they have more cap space. A team like Detroit, a team like New England, that maybe they could use a receiver. They're a pretty good team. They got a pretty stable franchise, but they can offer him more money to play for their team. So you have to take into account all of those different factors. So I'm going to go down the list of teams that I believe could be in play for DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm just going to spit out my first thought and my belief of whether or not he would go there, sign there, or whatever. Okay? So let's go to it. So these are the teams that I have. First, the Chiefs. So the Chiefs, from a contender standpoint, a need standpoint, they need a receiver. They make the most sense if DeAndre Hopkins is chasing a Super Bowl. You have Andy Reid, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have a cap situation that is not right now entirely available to throw a lot of money at DeAndre Hopkins, but it can be maneuvered to happen. And they clearly need a receiver more than any other contending team out there. So Kansas City makes a lot of sense because they have not replaced Juju Smith-Schuster. Kadarius Toney is the guy they want to stand up and be that guy, but he's kind of a little bit of a liability considering his health and all that stuff and his off the field. So counting on Kadarius Toney for the Chiefs, a team that's trying to build this dynasty, would be a little bit risky, in my opinion. And we don't know what Sky Moore is. They need a complementary option for Travis Kelce. So DeAndre Hopkins would make a lot of sense, especially now that he's a free agent. They don't have to give up any trade assets. So the Chiefs make sense. The one thing that I would say is holding them back from potentially doing it would be the money. Secondly, you have the Buffalo Bills, who are in, I believe, a better situation than Kansas City financially, but still not the best situation. Now, this is also probably a good time to bring up ESPN reported 3 teams being interested in a trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Those 3 teams were the Buffalo Bills being one of them, the New England Patriots being another, and the Baltimore Ravens being the third. So first, back to the Buffalo Bills. They need a secondary receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins is a player that does complement Stephon Diggs. They need that type of player that can move the chains, that can go over the middle of the field, that can win over the middle of the field, and move the chains. They have Stephon Diggs, who's still a vertical threat, and yes, great and intermediate, but they have yet to kind of replace the presence of Cole Beasley the last couple of years. They've been missing that player. And I'm not saying Beasley's Hopkins or they're even that similar, but the way that they can help your football team, especially Hopkins at this stage of his career, he can consistently pick up those first downs on third down, especially if teams are looking to double team Stephon Diggs. This is somebody that can thrive versus single coverage, okay? So, and he's somebody that even when he's not open, he's still open, okay? So DeAndre Hopkins to Buffalo would make a lot of sense. I've been pressing for them to get a number 2 receiver, a good number 2 receiver. They did draft Dalton Kincaid, so maybe that lessens the need in their mind as another receiving option. But I still feel like they could go out there and use another guy and then have Gabe Davis as your number 3, Shakir as your number 4, and now you're really talking about having a plethora of weapons, a deep receiving group with Josh Allen. So the Bills are the next team, and they were also interested at the draft. The next team is the New England Patriots. Now, honestly, I don't think I'm just saying this from a bias standpoint. I think I'm saying this from an honest standpoint. The Patriots make the most sense. They have the most cap space out of any of these teams. I think they have $14 million. Obviously, there's a good relationship between Belichick and Hopkins. Belichick has kind of been out there praising Hopkins for years, including last year where there's that famous clip from NFL Films, and Hopkins seems to like Belichick. Belichick seems to like Hopkins. Belichick is the general manager. Bill O'Brien, some people may say that's a bad thing that would hold back, the Patriots from trading for him. But the report was that they were interested in trading for him. Plus, Hopkins had his best seasons in New England. Or not in New England, but under Bill O'Brien, I should say, in that system, okay? New England clearly needs a number 1 target for Mac Jones. They purposely didn't draft one in the draft. And maybe part of the reason for that was because they thought they might be able to land DeAndre Hopkins later in the offseason or at the draft for a later pick. That's also a possibility. But they've clearly been trying to add some weapons to their offense with Mike Gesicki and Juju Smith-Schuster. And DeAndre Hopkins could be the missing piece. If DeAndre Hopkins goes to Kansas City, nobody's going to say at the end of the day that Hopkins was the guy that put the Chiefs over the top. Right? If he goes to Buffalo, nobody's going to say that Hopkins was the reason they won, right? Everyone is still going to look at Travis Kelce. Everyone's still going to look at Stephon Diggs. Hopkins is going to be the number 2 there. If he goes to New England, he's the instant number 1. He is the instant guy that people will look at. Well, that's why Mac Jones played so well. That's why their offense got back on track. That's why they were able to do this and that. So Hopkins, from an ego standpoint, which trust me, it seems like he has a pretty big ego, I don't know if he's even willing to go to a place where he is a number 2 receiver. It feels like the guy still wants to be treated as the alpha target. And if that's the case, New England would make a lot of sense. Plus, he brought up the fact that he wants a stable franchise, stable management, a good defense. That all seems to be New England, on top of the fact that he wants a quarterback that loves the game, which is clearly Mac Jones. He did not specify that he wants an all-pro. He just wants somebody that loves the game, and that's Mac Jones. So the Patriots do make a ton of sense, and financially more sense than Kansas City if Buffalo if they throw money at DeAndre Hopkins. Appreciate whoever gave me the dislike. Very nice. Grateful for you. You probably hate the Patriots. It's fine. We're going to continue to other teams. The Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, I threw out there. Hey guys, we have 34 viewers right now and only 6 likes. Gronk spiked the like button. Carolina Panthers is a team that I just threw into this conversation. I think that Carolina should be interested. I do. Do I think it's likely to happen? No. But when you look at Carolina, they have a lot of money. I think they have over $20 million in cap, so they can throw as much money at DeAndre Hopkins as possible. They have a young, promising first-year quarterback in Bryce Young. You want that guy to be successful. You want to give him the assets to be successful, okay? You have an offensive coach in Frank Reich. You have an aggressive owner that wants to win, okay? You have a good defense. That's definitely there. I think Hopkins would say the same thing, a good defense. You're in a weak division, and you have other veteran receivers like Adam Thielen there. But DeAndre Hopkins would be the number 1 receiver. So if he's looking to play with a quarterback that loves the game, a quarterback that's young, that has some upside, in an offensive-minded team with a good defense, with a chance to win, with money to give out, Carolina would make a lot of sense to me. Now, will Carolina be in it? Maybe they don't feel like they're willing to go there this year because they have a rookie quarterback. I'm not exactly sure, but it would make a ton of sense, okay? Shout out to everybody in the chat. Ryan Shaw, Daniel Barry. We got Silent Knight, Andrew, Volcano. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I will get to them. I'm just going to continue down my list of teams that I believe could get DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so next up, we've got the New York Giants. The New York Giants, I think, make less sense, but I wanted to throw them in this conversation because they have a team with Brian Daboll, who's a heavily respected head coach, an offensive-minded head coach. They have a very stable management that comes from Buffalo, that's on the rise. They have a team that made the playoffs last year. It's a big market. DeAndre Hopkins has never played in a market like New York. That could be very enticing to be in New York. You know, they don't really have a number 1 receiver, per se. They did go out and get Darren Waller. The one thing that I think with the Giants is they've already thrown a few different assets at wide receiver. Darren Waller, Paris Campbell, Jalen Hyatt. So they've thrown some different assets at that position already. But that being said, they still do not have a number 1 target in their offense. Okay? So I wanted to throw the Giants in there because I do think that's the type of move that would put them over the top. Then next, you've got the Tennessee Titans. The Titans make sense to me, and some people may say this doesn't just because like the Titans don't look like a contender. Don't get me wrong, they would probably have to throw some money at Hopkins. But Vrabel, I think, had some crossover with DeAndre Hopkins in Houston. And the Titans, honestly, are a team that if you give them DeAndre Hopkins, that changes entirely what you think of that team. Just think about it, right? Like, if the Titans have Derrick Henry running the rock, Ryan Tannehill healthy, I still think he's an average quarterback. He's been to the playoffs multiple times, been the number 1 seed in the AFC. They have Vrabel as the coach. They have Treylon Burks, a young receiver who could be maybe not a number 1, but at least a good number 2, right? If Hopkins comes there. They have a promising young tight end as well. And they've got a really good defense. So if you add a number one receiver to the Titans, it changes entirely the prospect of that team. Because the number one problem with them right now is they don't have any targets that you have faith in to move the chains, to make plays, to score touchdowns. And if you put him on that team, I think it changes things completely. So Tennessee is one that I wouldn't sleep on, okay? Then you have the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns make sense because Deshaun Watson is there. I'm not sure what Hopkins thinks of Watson. I haven't really heard him speak about Watson lately. But obviously they had good rapport on the football field, so that matters. Cleveland has clearly shown that they are all in on 2023. They went out, they traded for Elijah Moore. They signed Juan Thornhill. They signed Dalvin Tomlinson. They traded for Zadarius Smith. They have done everything they possibly can for Deshaun Watson to be good this year. And the last piece would be DeAndre Hopkins, a guy that he's already played with, that he has chemistry with, that can click with him right away and potentially get the rust off. And that would make them, on paper, maybe the best team in the AFC. I mean, they have a loaded roster. Still questions on defense. When you look at the strong offensive line, a great running game, you already have Amari Cooper, you have David Njoku, you have Donovan Peoples-Jones. You have tons of weaponry there already. You add DeAndre Hopkins, you got 2 number 1 receivers in Cleveland. So Cleveland certainly has to be thought about at least. Then you have the Jets. The Jets I have to throw in there because just like Cleveland, they are all in this year, right? All in. All in. Aaron Rodgers is there. He may only be playing for 1 season. The Jets, the problem right now is they don't have a lot of cap space, but what if they released Corey Davis to sign DeAndre Hopkins? Plus, DeAndre Hopkins might be willing to take less to play in New York, to play in that market, and more importantly, to play with Aaron Rodgers, right? Plus, there's Garrett Wilson already there to take some pressure off of him. DeAndre Hopkins could be that veteran presence in a young locker room. So I think that would be a huge piece to take the Jets offense over the top, because my biggest question about the Jets offense right now is if you're going to run this basic, simplistic West Coast offense with Hackett, you're going to need some really good players. And they really only have 1 good receiver right now, in my opinion. So another really good receiver would really help that team. Then you have the Detroit Lions. So the Detroit Lions, and guys, I'll get to all your questions after I go through all these teams. I got a few more. Gronk, spike the like button. Comment your questions. The Detroit Lions, they have cap space. So that's number 1. I don't think Jared Goff is the type of quarterback that Hopkins would be jumping to go sign with. But obviously they have a very enticing culture. They've built something there under Dan Campbell. They've produced numbers offensively. They have a very good offense last year. And with Jameson Williams being suspended, it opens the door for Detroit needing a receiver. Because right now, Marvin Jones is there. He's old, right? Josh Reynolds is there. He's at best a number 3. They've got guys like, I believe, Raymond is there. They don't really have a trusted tight end. Sam Laporta's a rookie. So if Detroit really wants to win now, which it appears they do, DeAndre Hopkins should be at least a thought in their mind. And they have the cap to throw at him. Jacksonville, as a team I haven't heard at all by anybody, but does make a lot of sense. Obviously, they have a lot of money. And this one would be interesting because Jacksonville, I don't know. Okay, here's the thing with D-Hop. I don't know if he wants a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal. I don't exactly know what he's looking for. If he's looking for just a 1-year deal, this Jacksonville would make sense. Because I don't think Jacksonville would be willing to put a ton of money into Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins long term. But for just 1 year, you could surround Trevor Lawrence with all the weapons he could ever need. D-Hop, Kirk in the slot, Ridley out wide, Ingram at tight end, Doug Peterson calling plays, Travis Etienne at running back. That would take Jacksonville to a new stratosphere, right? Defensively, they're not the greatest, but they've got talent there, young talent that's on the rise. Jacksonville would get to contender status by adding DeAndre Hopkins. Plus, they have about 11, 12 million left in cap space to work with, okay? And then the last team that I really wrote down here is Dallas. DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, is from Texas, or at least has ties to Texas. I think he lives there. And he's been bringing up Dallas all offseason. Now, they already made a big move for Brandon Cooks, and it's unlikely that they go out and make another big move. But hey, why not? Dallas has a really good football team. They have a really good football team. And for 1 year, why not throw some money at DeAndre Hopkins? Have Brandon Cooks, DeAndre Hopkins, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, and a great defense. That would be pretty awesome. And I know D-Hop probably would sign for less with the Cowboys. So that's the final destination for me. Let me know if I missed any. Now, in terms of DeAndre Hopkins, we got some questions about his age. He's about, last year, guys, DeAndre Hopkins was awesome. He came back from the suspension and was putting up prolific numbers. This isn't a guy that is coming off multiple injuries. This isn't a guy that's coming off of his worst season of his career. He was playing with bad quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks. Colt McCoy, Kyler wasn't there the whole year. You look at what he was able to do. His availability hasn't been the best, but that was mostly due to his suspension last year. If you look at last season, he played 9 games. He had 700 yards in 9 games, 3 touchdowns. So that's 79.7 yards per game. That is better than 2021. That's better than 2019 when he was an all-pro for the Houston Texans. That's better than his 2016 season, his 2014 season, his rookie season. That is his 6th best season. His 5th best season of his 10-year career in terms of yards per game. So DeAndre Hopkins is not cooked. At least what we saw from him last year. He is very good. Is he a top 10 receiver in the NFL? I'd probably argue no, because his explosiveness isn't the same. He's not quite the vertical threat. But if you're looking for somebody that even when he's covered, he's open. He has, JJ Watt just tweeted, he has the best hands in the league. I do not deny that. He's a red zone weapon. He's a 3rd down chain mover. He can play inside or outside. He can run routes in a very savvy nature. D-Hop reminds me of what Larry Fitzgerald was late in his career with Arizona. How he was a premier number 1 receiver. Then he moved to the inside and became a premier slot receiver. That's kind of what D-Hop is to me. He's not quite the explosive player he used to be, but man, the guy can still really play. And he understands the nuances of the wide receiver position like few other players do. So yeah, D-Hop's still really, really good. And yeah, he'd be a true number 1 for the Patriots for sure. Okay, let's go through your comments, guys. Jargy, I believe is how you say his name, says there's no way he goes to the Patriots. Can I say why? And then he says this dude is going to the Bills. Very well could go to the Bills. I brought it up. A lot of those teams have poor front offices, says Ryan. The Chiefs don't. The Bills don't. The Patriots don't. Maybe you could argue the Panthers, but it's kind of new. The Giants, I would say they don't. The Titans, new front office. The Browns, it depends who you ask. The Jets, yeah, maybe. You could argue that, but they just signed Aaron Rodgers. The Lions, I think most people think well of the Lions now. Like the what they've been able to build, I think people like the Lions. Jacksonville, I would say yes, but given what else they have on the team, you might be able to overlook that. So I don't think that's the biggest factor, honestly, Ryan. I don't think that's the biggest factor in where DeAndre Hopkins will go. I think the biggest factors are the coach, the quarterback, and the money. Those are the biggest factors, I think. And I also think for DeAndre Hopkins, the need. The more a team needs DeAndre Hopkins, I think the more that he'll be willing to go there. Like, I definitely question him going to a team with a number one receiver, because I think DeAndre Hopkins has an ego, like all great receivers do. I don't think he wants a Kevin Durant situation where Durant went to the Warriors and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is just OP. Like, this is just dumb. Why are we doing this? Like, I kind of think he wants to be a reason why that team is successful and winning. I don't think it's just about winning with him. I think it's about winning because he's there. Like, I think that's part of it as well. So if he were to go to Kansas City, it's like, oh yeah, great, Hopkins joined the Chiefs. He's just another cog in the machine, you know? That's kind of what I think. Jacob, I brought up the Giants, but I think there's too many things that are deterring the Giants. Just because, like, they've already added so many different players to the receiver position, to the tight end position. They've spent a lot of assets there. And then on top of that, I don't know about the, like, Dhop, what he thinks of Daniel Jones, or what the money situation would be there for them. I definitely think that the Chiefs could be a huge contender, but I think the Chiefs mostly comes down to money. I don't think he's just going to go there to win. Like, I think he's still going to need a decent contract. Somebody brought up Baltimore. I think Baltimore's out by this point. You know, they were brought up in the trade, but I think that was before they drafted Zay Flowers. So, you know, when you have, I mean, they've already spent so much on that position. They already went out and they got OBJ. They drafted Zay Flowers. They have Mark Andrews. They spend a first-round pick on Rashad Bateman, a first-round pick on Marquise Brown, and I understand he's gone now. But, like, that's a lot of assets. They signed Nelson Aguilar. So there's a lot of things that they did to fix that position already. I don't really think that's going to happen. Silent Knight says, I don't see New England without dumping Parker. He may not like Billy O, but know he can get his numbers with him. I mean, yeah, they could maybe trade Parker or release Parker. I haven't really thought about that part, but even if they don't, they still have the money to make the move, so we'll see. It is unlikely, though, that they keep all those veteran receivers if they do add DeAndre Hopkins. So maybe Bourne or maybe Parker are out. What else is said here? Volcano says, Mitch, I really think the Titans are getting slept. Texans? Okay, let's talk about the Texans. So, could he go back to the Texans? I think it's unlikely given where the franchise is right now. First of all, I think the front office is extremely iffy at this point. DeAndre Hopkins already doesn't trust the ownership, the management. He's been there. He's done that. They have a rookie quarterback, a rookie coach, a young team. It doesn't seem to fit. So as much as Houston Texans fans might want D-Hop back in the building, might want to wear his jersey again at games, I just don't think that's a possible scenario for him. I think he's looking to go to somewhere where he can be one of the missing pieces of a championship level or a playoff level team that can pay him a decent contract. Kind of like what Odell did. Odell didn't go out there and sign with Kansas City or sign with Buffalo. You know, he picked a team that was willing to pay him, and he'd also be a big part of what they were going to do. That's Baltimore, right? So that's kind of the sense I get. Tyler's World says the Packers. I don't see the Packers either because of Jordan Love, really, and that's really... Also, Green Bay being... I don't know, like, I think there's just this notion, if you're on the outside looking in, if you're DeAndre Hopkins, they just moved on from Aaron Rodgers. So if you're a receiver at near the end of your career, are you going to want to go to a team that's got a new quarterback? You don't know what he is. It just doesn't feel right. And then the Packers also are not really willing to spend any money on receivers. So that doesn't really feel right to me. What's up, Sideline Report? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining the chat. Football 12, what's going on? I brought up the Ravens. I don't see the Ravens, again, just to repeat myself, because of Zay Flowers. That was, I think, the final thing. I think the Ravens were in until the draft. Once the draft happened, then I think they're out. Because I think they were looking to trade for DHop near the draft, but they added Zay Flowers, they added OBJ, they added Nelson Aguilar, they have Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. I think they're good on that front. I don't think they're really going to spend more money this year on a receiver. The Browns, I did bring up the Browns. The Browns are possible because the Browns, the number one thing that the reason I think the Browns are possible, not only Deshaun Watson, but they're aggressive. They have been very aggressive this offseason. They traded for Zadarius Smith. They traded for Elijah Moore. I could see them, hey, let's do it. Go. We're all in. F it. Go. Do it. That's kind of the mentality of the Browns right now. The Chargers were another team that was brought up for Hopkins in terms of the quarterbacks he wants to play with. I don't see that because they already have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and they just drafted a first-round receiver. So, and the Chargers aren't really known for signing big free agents anyways, but I don't see that one either. The Bills might not be aggressive enough to pay Hopkins, but we'll see. Yes, I agree. I mean, it's going to come down to financial for the Chiefs and the Bills, right? If you're Hopkins, and let's say New England comes in and they're offering you $10 million for 1 year, and Kansas City and Buffalo are offering $5 million, Dhop might take New England. Or Dhop might take, who's another team that could do that? Like the Lions. You know, I don't know, just throwing that out there. But I think he's gonna go with the money at the end of the day. I mean, you only have such a long shelf life. I'd be shocked if he took less just to play with like Buffalo or whatever. I'd be a little surprised. I do think it comes down to a little bit of the financial here. So I think Buffalo, I think Kansas City, they're going to have to go in and they're going to have to open some space. If we see an indication that they're opening up cap space, then that's a good sign that they might be in play. Why would we go to the Pats? Belichick, like what he brought up. He wants a good defense. Well, the Patriots got arguably the best defense in football. He wants a good general manager and front office. That's Belichick and the Patriots. He loves Belichick, and then he wants a quarterback that loves the game. That's Mac Jones. I think most people realize that Mac Jones was kind of screwed over by the OC, who he now has a system that he already knows and is familiar with Bill O'Brien. Some people may say that might hurt his chances because Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins and all that stuff, but we've already heard Hopkins talk about that, and he says it doesn't persuade him to not go there. Obviously, if you're Hopkins, you'd want a perfect scenario. You would want Mahomes with a perfect culture, with a lot of money. But the problem is that I don't think every team covers every base. I don't think every team has every base. I don't think, right? The Chiefs don't have a great defense, if you're asking me what they don't have. Or they don't have a lot of money to spend. So, yeah, they have Mahomes, they have Andy Reid, they have all this stuff. But at the same time, if you're looking at what his list of demands are, well, I don't know if they all meet. The Bills, right? The Bills don't have a lot of money. So they're going to have to free up some money. So I'm just going through all the scenarios. Not every team has every base covered. He's going to have to pick and choose. Is he going to go with the money? Is he going to go with the quarterback? Is he going to go with the reputation of the coach or the team or the franchise, the stability? What is he going to do? What if a team like Carolina comes in and offers him a 3-year deal And that's the only team in the league that offers him long-term stability. Maybe he goes there, right? Maybe he goes there. So, I don't know. I don't see the Eagles even being in the conversation. Like, I don't know how they would even maneuver that, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's not impossible. I also think the Eagles defense isn't going to be as good this year, but that's a tangent for another day. Tori says, "What's up, chat?" What's up, Tori? Thank you so much for the super chat, my man. Appreciate it. I don't know why it's so small. Thank you, Tori. Guys, if you haven't already, Gronk spike the like button. Gronk spike that like button. Subscribe to the channel. A lot more NFL content coming all offseason. I hope you guys have enjoyed the record prediction videos. Got the full playlist, all the teams out there if you haven't checked it out already. Has he really talked about the Super Bowl, though? I mean, any more questions, guys? Duncan, you may call me biased or whatever, Duncan, but if the New England Patriots got DeAndre Hopkins, they would be a very good football team. I'm not blinking. They would be a very good football team if they got DeAndre Hopkins. They need a receiver. That's what they need. Period. Period. End the story. That's all they need. A receiver. Seriously. They haven't had one in a long time. They need a receiver. You can hate all you want. They need a receiver. That's what they need. Okay? All right. What time could you see him signing? What team? That no one saw coming? I think that team is probably... I think the Browns are in that discussion. I think the Titans are in that discussion. And I think a team like the Panthers. I don't think, honestly, I don't think Dallas is all that realistic. I don't think the Giants are all that realistic. I think, honestly, it's going to come down to Kansas City, Buffalo, New England, and maybe one more team. Honestly. Because I don't know. Unless like the Panthers or the Lions want to go out there and offer him like a 3-year deal or something, I don't think he's going to go there. Yeah, I don't think the Eagles. Like, I don't think the Eagles, the Cowboys, I don't see the Niners. I don't see the Ravens anymore. The Ravens, that would be like, if they didn't draft Zay Flowers, I would say the Ravens would certainly be in the discussion, but I don't think they're in there anymore. The Jets, maybe if they like cut Corey Davis or something to that degree, but I wouldn't say that they're like a contender. Andrew says, what would the Patriots record be if they got DeAndre Hopkins? Well, they'd certainly be in the playoffs. I don't know. Hard to say. I'd have to think about it. Mike says, I disagree. I think the Eagles defense is going to be insanely good. Gannon's defense sucked. Eagles fan was surely happy to lose Gannon. Yeah, I don't know, man. When you lose Javon Hargrave and you lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and your defense consists of a bunch of old players like Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, James Bradbury, like good players, but they're all old and they're all kind of, getting up there. They could easily regress. Like, I don't know. Maybe the Gannon thing will be good, but maybe it won't be. I don't know. Maybe they're going to play the same system. Like, I don't really know what they're going to do, but they've got a lot of young players that everyone, like, loves on defense, but I don't think rookies just step in and dominate all the time. I don't know. Like, Jordan Davis didn't step in and dominate last year for the Eagles. So maybe he takes a step forward this year. They don't really have great linebackers. Like, I think even what we saw from them last year, I'm getting on a little side tangent here, but even what we saw from them last year, I mean, they didn't play a lot of legit offenses or legit quarterbacks. And we saw them have like a disastrous performance in the Super Bowl. That was kind of embarrassing. So, I don't know. Maybe they will be. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad defense. I'm just saying they're not going to be as good as last year. That's kind of what I'm saying. I think D-Hop likes that attention, man. These receivers are different, bro. These receivers are different. They like the attention. They like to be trending on Twitter. They like everybody to be making videos about them, live streams about them, talking about all the different scenarios. They love it. They like seeing the little edits with the jersey and all that stuff. Lego My Ego wants D-Hop to the Chiefs. All right, guys. I think I'm going to end it here. Appreciate everybody that was live on the BLV. Awesome. Haven't done a live stream in a long time, so really appreciate everybody joining and Gronk spiking the like button. But I went through every team I felt was possible. If you didn't already see my analysis, go back, check it out at the beginning of the video, and it'll be very interesting. If you want a prediction from me, I think the Chiefs make the most sense. But for some reason, I don't think it's going to happen. Like, it never really seems to happen that way, where the most obvious team gets the guy. But if I had to predict, it would be the Chiefs or the Bills. But of course, I'm cheering for New England. It could be some team we don't even expect. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I went through all of them. Let me know what your prediction is in the comments section below. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Peace!